Hello, lifters. Welcome back to Raising the Bar. I am joined by elite powerlifter Chad Penson. How are you doing today?
Doing good. How you doing, Ashley?
Doing well. So happy to have you on. I really appreciate it. Can you tell our audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay, yeah. I am Chad Penson, like she said. I've been powerlifting for about 11 years, going on 12. Also in the military, been active duty for the same amount of time too. And I also coach on the side too.
What branch of the military are you in?
Air Force.
Air Force. Thank you for your
Yep.
service.
Oh, thank you.
What got you started in powerlifting originally?
Um, Originally, I was a wrestler in high school. When I left high school, I wanted to kind of keep doing a sport that was kind of competitive, but like I didn't realize they had weight classes, but I wanted to lift weights because I was always into it, and kind of stumbled across I think it was an APF meet going on in my gym while I was in training for the military, and the guy just told me I could walk in and sign up, so I just signed up with some shorts and a t-shirt on, and kind of discovered the sport there. I was terrible, by the way.
I was going to ask if it was a natural talent.
Oh yeah, no, it was bad. I was a bench bro. I think I benched like 250 or 240 at the time, and I was like 145 pounds. So I was a decent bencher, but everything else was like terrible. So, but I still had fun. It was a good time. So
Well, over 11 years, you've definitely progressed.
thank you.
It's funny. That's kind of how I got into powerlifting as well. When I originally started training, I was training for bodybuilding, which I love, and I'm actually going to be going back into the competitive bodybuilding world next year. But
Yeah,
a guy who I'm very good friends with now, just one day, he signed up for a partner meet. It was like a Valentine's Day, like, male female partner thing. And it was like 2 weeks out, and I never competed before. And he was like, "Hey, I've seen you in the gym. You're strong as hell. Do you want to do this with me? Because I need a partner." And I was like, sure. So like I didn't go through a prep or anything like that, and just like ended up
nice.
falling in love with it. That was years ago though, but definitely progressed myself over the last 6, 7 years since then.
That's so cool. Yeah,
Yeah, I
similar
think
story.
yeah, it's funny. Like a lot of people, I've noticed have kind of stumbled onto the sport like via other things. It's actually very common for people who, especially men who wrestled in high school and college, to transition over into powerlifting. That's definitely not the first time that I've heard that. So, um, so you just recently competed at the American Pro. And I've interviewed so far several athletes that competed and said that it was one of the best, like most well-run shows and well-run meets that they have ever competed in. Would you agree with that?
Uh, yeah, absolutely. I think Anna and Micah put on a hell of a show. They put on a great production. There was a bar that was different. The video walls, the red carpet, the music, the MC. It was phenomenal. The warm up room, they had a masseuse in the back to take care of us. So it was very nice on the lifting side of things, like to kind of be taken care of for the most part throughout the whole experience. So
Absolutely. Yeah, they definitely set the standard for what professional meets should look like going forward. So it's going to be interesting to see how other meet directors transition and add in different things to level up their meets in the future. But I was looking at your post as far as your recap from the American Pro, and it looked like the meet didn't go quite as well as you had planned. Is that true?
it got derailed a little bit.
Can you talk a little bit about what happened?
So I'm sure most people have already seen it, but on my third attempt squat, I was going to go for 953 to kind of up the world record I just took,
Mm-hmm.
and they misloaded it by a red plate on each side, so extra 110 pounds, 50 kilos. So I ended up going down with 1,063, and it was a little bit too much at the time. Not quite there yet, and I think I got some MRIs and stuff done, but I think it tweaked my LCL on my right leg and a little bit of my MCL on my left leg, and I also really pulled my hamstring pretty bad on the left leg too. So going into bench, I was a little exhausted because I did take 4 attempts. I got to retake the the squat that got misloaded,
Right.
but it was like an hour later, so that didn't work out.
And honestly,
Um,
after attempting something so heavy, like I wouldn't anticipate that reattempt to go very well anyway.
yeah, it was a little stupid, but yeah. And then going into deadlifts, I was really feeling the hamstring a lot, so my legs were shaking pretty bad. So the first deadlift I got was like it was 744. So I opened up a little light because I knew I was gonna be tired from squats, so I wanted to kind of see how it moved. Moved really fast, and I was happy with it. But the down command took. I jumped it probably by like half a second before he would have called it, and
Mhm.
missed that one. And then second time I got it, went for I can't remember what I went for. I think 770 for a third, and I think they called it for downward motion. I was just want to get I think 1,000 kilos for that. So it didn't really go how I wanted it to. Bench was a little down too after everything, and deadlifts was probably that's the thing the lowest deadlift I've had in a meet in probably for like 3 years.
Yeah. And do you feel like the lifts that followed that failed misloaded squat attempt, do you think that was more like physical exhaustion, or were you like mentally shaken by that misload, or was it a combination of both?
It was the physical. The I'm pretty like mentally tough, I guess you could say. Like it didn't really phase me in a mind type way because I realized, oh, it wasn't the 950 that I thought it was. So I felt better about it. It's like I know I can't squat 1,000 pounds right now, so I was like, cool. I didn't get crushed by only 950, but only 950. But so I was like, I felt a little bit better about it, but my body was just kind of broken down after taking 4 squats and well over 800, 900 pounds.
Mhm.
It was a hell of a day to start off with. So
Absolutely. But you knew that it was misloaded when you walked up to the bar, right?
no, I had no idea.
Oh, you didn't know. Okay.
No.
Like when you first unracked it, like what was going through your head? Like, did you realize
So
at that point it was misloaded? Like when did you realize that was an issue?
So funny story. The my second attempt, I think it was 925, was the when I got the real record the first time, and I kind of unwrapped it bad, so it was a little shaky. If you've ever seen the video, I'm shaking like crazy.
Mhm.
So I picked it pretty bad out of the mono. But when I went for the 1,063, I was like, okay, I need to make sure I pick this right, take my time. So I got under it really good. So the pickup was so easy. I didn't really feel the weight. I was like, cool, this is fine. And I started going down, it was fine. And then once I got about a couple inches above parallel, it was like too much. So I
Yeah.
didn't really notice until really so it was too late. And I couldn't tell you it was heavy because it just felt the same, honestly.
Well, I mean, that's a good sign, at least. Like, you know that you're able to control the weight, at least on the descent.
Yeah.
When I watched the video of it, it definitely looked like you had it. Like right into that last minute, that last little part of the push on the way up. Like it looked like you were gonna get it. I was actually kind of surprised. Like you
I,
were
you know,
rolling by the whole time.
if I could have kept my brace, I might have been able to come up a little bit. But it knocked the wind out of me. It was like I never had so much weight on me that it literally just pushed my brace down. So it was just like, yeah, it's like a
That's
Heimlich maneuver got hit.
yeah. Kudos to the spotters for catching you on that.
Oh yeah, they saved me on that one
Yeah,
because that could have been real bad.
yeah, absolutely. Were you at the after party at the end of the American Pro?
Um,
I heard
yeah, I was there.
I heard there was a little bit of drama on it. Actually telling me
Yeah,
about it.
there was a little bit. Sad to say, I actually missed it because I went to the bathroom and I came back and they were like, "Oh, this just happened." I'm like, "Oh, damn, it's all this stuff." So, but I did hear about it, and everything kind of was squashed in seconds. So
Yeah.
I think it was probably blown up a little bit out of proportion because I don't think it was as big of a deal as everybody thinks it was. But people just being a little excited. Yeah.
People like controversy and drama and like
Yeah.
to hype it up. But yeah, when I was talking to Anna about it, she was saying that she was surprised that no one in the room actually recorded the situation. Because I was trying to look for footage of it somewhere on someone's page. I figured it had to be out there, but she was like, it was the one moment where no one like had their phones at the ready. I was like, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Everybody was just kind of socializing and everything, and I guess it happened probably in less than a minute
Yeah. Like
because
it
it
was over
was
before it started.
yeah, no, like no blows were really thrown or anything like that. So it was just really just like a one-sided shoving match is basically what I heard. So
Yeah. I mean, you get everyone's still on all of the adrenaline and everything from the meet with a little bit of alcohol and a little bit of trash talk here and there. Something's
yeah,
bound to pop off, but
yeah, just a little alcohol.
is that a sarcastic comment?
A little bit. It was kind of wild having a bar there, but
Yeah.
it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah. I think it definitely added something a little extra for the lifters, that's for sure.
Oh yeah,
Smart
definitely.
to have that at the end though.
Definitely.
So you are now moving on to the PA Pro, which is Friday, correct?
Yep.
So you're going through your peak week right now.
I mean, Saturday. But
Saturday.
yeah,
That's a pretty quick turnaround from meet to meet.
yeah. It's a little. I think it was 8 weeks. So
Um, is that typically how long you prep for? Or do you tend to go a little bit longer?
I usually go about 12 weeks. But this one, it's a little different when I go from a wrap meet to a sleeve meet because
Mhm.
I'm pretty much overloading that whole time. So an 8 week turnaround would have been easy. It would have been like basically deloading for the first 2 3 weeks. But obviously I didn't get a chance to do that because I couldn't squat for about 4 weeks after this meet. Um, but usually I can do a quick turnaround from a meet as long as I have like 2 weeks and I'll be fine. I just basically obviously I didn't get any stronger, but I basically just kind of adjust my attempts based
Gotcha.
on how the last meet was. And sometimes you can kind of creep your total up like that.
Gotcha. And what is the difference between your total for wrapped and your total for sleeves?
Let's see. So my best sleeve total is 2039. That was last year at the showdown. And best wrap total is 2199. So about 160 pounds, or 150, so like that.
That's not as big of a difference as I was expecting.
Not too
So
bad.
I'm sorry.
It's not too bad.
Going into this prep for the pro that you have on Saturday, given the injury, how did you adjust your training protocols to work around the injury and still be able to train?
Well, this is a $1 million question. Um,
I guess we'll
so the
see.
first, yeah, it was. So when I got home, actually, so it's kind of funny. The first day after the meet, I didn't realize how messed up I was. So if people saw me at the meet at the after party, whatever, I had a slight limp, but I was fine. I also had a couple drinks, so I couldn't feel as much. But by the following day, I was barely walking. So by the time I got home, I wasn't really walking at all. I was just kind of like dragging my one leg around with me. And didn't even realize my LCL was jacked up, but my left leg was so busted I couldn't even sit and stand without taking like 10 seconds to get up or grunting.
Jeez.
So it took about 2 weeks before I could do a body weight squat before without any major pain, and about three to have no pain. So my first actual squat workout was about 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks after the meet. And I only went up to like 600, just kind of feel it out. And my knees were still kind of swollen
Mm-hmm.
in the MCL area on my left leg, so I had to wear my knee sleeve inside out. So if anybody sees that and realize one of my Iron Rebel sleeves is not showing the logo and it looks weird, it's inside out because that's the only way I could, like, for whatever reason, wear it without it like cutting into my leg. Um, so basically, I had 3 squat sessions for this meet, and I had two deadlift sessions for this meet. I
Wow.
was only able to really train bench, but I've also been cutting. I've been dieting down, so bench is kind of like hit or miss right now because I've lost about 20 pounds uh since early July. Trying to get back down to a healthier 198 range, so I can cut back down and make it a little easier.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Now that's kind of the one of the more difficult things about this sport is being able to cut weight while maintaining strength. So what are like some common things that you do during that process? That way you can achieve that body weight goal, but not sacrifice your strength in the process.
So for me, it's more so like right now it's like not really the body weight that's made me weaker. It's the cut and the nutrients basically. So I'm knocking off probably 100 or so carbs, maybe
Mhm.
30 or 40 fats that I was used to getting. So it's the adjustment period there because I'm in a cut phase. So when I go back to a maintenance phase, everything will kind of level back out. But honestly, if you're cutting 20 plus pounds, you're gonna lose a little strength for a little bit. It won't be permanent. It's just your body has to adjust for it. It's just like if you gain weight, you're gonna have to adjust for your new leverages and stuff like that. So it's not a whole lot you can do about it except just keep training and adjust your training as needed. Hopefully you're not pushing 80, 90% like I am for a meet. You can kind of just push volume and kind of work your body, get used to it again.
Absolutely. Now, the clients that you work with and that you coach for meets, when do you advise them to adjust their weight class? Like, when do you recommend that to be a good idea?
I kind of let them choose on their own. I just don't ever advocate for weight cuts.
Mm-hmm.
So I will, if they want to cut, I will always advocate diet down and get within 2 or 3 pounds, even if it's a water cut. I mean, not a water cut, 24-hour weigh-in, because obviously, if you don't have the means to rehydrate and eat properly, which most of them they might have the means, but they probably don't have the knowledge to go in and recomp hard like I do or any of the other guys that cut 15, 20 pounds before meet. It's a lot that goes into that. So I don't want to put that extra stress on somebody who's had 3 or 4 meets.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have any majorly big elite clients, except my wife is the strongest client I got as far as ranking goes. But I can keep my eyes on her, so it's a little easier for her to cut and recomp like I do. But for the other clients, I don't really advocate for weight cutting. I tell them to kind of go in wherever they fit, and if they want to lose weight, for health purposes and get closer to another weight class, I'm all for that. I always advocate for health. So
100%. I agree with that. And, especially with newer lifters or people who haven't been in the sport for a very long time, doing a drastic weight cut, especially, could be like very detrimental to their performance. And typically, a lot of people want to do it because they make the assumption that they would just need to lift less weight in a lower weight class, which isn't necessarily true. Like if you look at like a national qualifying total, for example, sometimes a lower weight class total is higher than the one above it. Like it's pretty common to see that. So I typically don't recommend that either. The only time I would, if someone's right on the border, like only 1 or 2 pounds at the lower end of the higher weight class, and it kind of makes sense just to do like a real quick water cut at the end and just drop down. But typically I don't recommend that either. But a lot of people think that they're gonna like do significantly better in a competition setting if they drop weight, and that's not always the case.
Yeah, adding extra stress.
Oh yeah,
Hydrating yourself. It's just not worth it. Especially
no.
if it's a local meet, you're not winning any money, not breaking any records. Like, just go in and have some fun. Don't add that extra layer of stress to it.
Absolutely. So with your training clients right now, do you work with people who are mostly like at the local level, or do you have some that are at the elite level?
I have a couple that are at the elite level, but I work with everybody. Usually I find out what level they are, like once we do like an intake.
Sure.
And I have to structure the training kind of based on that. Like, obviously, how often they can lift, what equipment they have, where they fall as far as intermediate, advanced, beginner. Can they handle volume, like injuries, et cetera, et cetera. So everybody's kind of. I have a couple guys that are like approaching like international elite level, and I'm just trying to push them to get like stronger than me in some of this. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun, honestly, coaching the elite guys. There's a lot of fun coaching the new people because you get to be there for like a lot of their milestones. That's like the first time they pull 315 or the first 225 bench, and honestly, the female clients I have are my favorite because they just kind of put their head down and work, and it's just the truth. The guys are terrible things, but they do their thing too. But they, as a whole, the women are always kicking the guys' asses as far as adherence, and they get their goals because they work hard and they don't ask a whole lot of questions except for like, oh, why do I need to do this? I'll tell you why. Just don't like argue about it.
Yeah.
But if you want to learn the reason behind things, I'm happy to teach and give you my opinion, and we can even collaborate and say, okay, that doesn't feel good, as you don't feel like that's working for you. Cool, let's switch some stuff out. But all level clients I work with, not kind of you get a good give and take from all of them, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. My client base kind of runs the spectrum as well. I have everyone from, doing their first meet to, going to the national level and all of that. So, and everywhere in between. But, it's funny. a lot of the male coaches that I've talked to actually prefer working with women. And as a female coach, I actually much prefer working with male clients, like generally. And the bulk of my client base is actually men. And I feel like, just from your perspective, you think that like women just put their head down and work. I feel like it's the opposite.
Huh. Maybe it's us.
It could be us. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe they want to listen to their same gender or something. I don't know.
I don't know, but I feel like men just like take the emotional piece out of it and just focus on the work. Whereas with women, like especially when it comes to like the performance nutrition side of it, I find that like there's more emotion that comes into the performance, because obviously when you go from, just trying to eat on a diet, just the whole diet culture that we're into, switching over to performance nutrition, typically that's a lot more food than what most people are used to, because everyone is always used to eating at a deficit and, carbs are the
Yeah.
devil and all these things. But obviously with a strength sport, you can't eat that way. You're not going to perform at your best. So making that transition from, diet culture thinking into like actually performance-based nutrition tends to be a little bit more difficult, in my opinion, with females than it is males.
Yeah, I can see that. Guys are always happy to eat more anyway.
Oh, 100%. Me too.
Yeah,
I'm like, you want me
same.
to eat more carbs? Absolutely.
Yeah,
100% I'm on board. And so, like going back into the bodybuilding world for a little bit, I'm doing a wellness competition next March out in Florida. Like transitioning away from the performance into the aesthetics is definitely going to be like a huge mental switch for me, and getting like back into that groove of bodybuilding, since I've been powerlifting for so long and eating like most powerlifters do, which is a lot. So I haven't quite got to the point where like it's terrible yet, but that time is quickly approaching.
how long has it been since you last stepped on stage?
Bodybuilding, it's been about 6 years.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, I can see now. Yeah, it's
yeah.
gonna be an adjustment.
Yep, absolutely. But I'm really excited about it because, through powerlifting, I've put on so much more mass and have so much more density,
Yeah,
like muscle density, that I'm really excited to see what it's going to look like cut down. And there's so many powerlifters, especially here lately, that are like transitioning over into bodybuilding and doing extremely well.
yeah, it's
Like
been a
Hunter
thing.
Henderson was one like that just recently did the transition, and Brittany, I'm going to blank on her last name. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about. It'll come to me. But like Hunter Henderson, she went pro like her very first time. Like she did
Yeah,
3 shows, qualified, and got a pro card like within, I think it was 4 months. It's crazy.
yeah, she's moving.
Yeah. And there's a quite a few males that are making that transition as well. So I think it's interesting that there's so much crossover, and the concept of power building is really taking off. I don't know if that's the way you train or what your training protocols are, but like the concept of building both strength through like the powerlifting side with the barbell training, and then doing more of the bodybuilding hypertrophy for the accessories to get the aesthetics as well. Like that combo seems to be really popular right now.
Yeah, that's kind of how I train too. I like to do all the barbell work, but you got to sometimes hit the pulleys and hit the dumbbells too, to kind of work the kinks out of all the stuff you're kind of skipping, because you can't do everything with compound lifts. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah,
And there's so many accessories and like smaller muscles and even like mobility limitations that will, like, if you don't touch on those things, will hold you back from, adding weight onto your barbell with, the power lifts and things. So it's really important to focus on those smaller muscle groups sometimes too.
absolutely.
Yeah. So like an overview of your training protocol. Do you like follow the conjugate method? Like what type of training do you do for your preps?
For the most part, it's kind of I usually do a basic linear progression. It's
Okay.
pretty simple. I kind of know instinctively kind of where I'm pushing each week to week, and it kind of varies. So my training versus my client's training, I kind of lay it out for the week.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is like, okay, I think I can push 520 today on bench instead of going up just 10 pounds. And then if I do, sometimes I'll deload following that to kind of push back into it. So it's a little bit of linear progression for the most part, and I don't really do conjugate per se. You could probably say there's some slight principles in there. I'll use chains here and there. I don't really do speed work. I'm not a big, I won't say disbeliever or believer in speed work, but I don't really do it for speed. But I do like using chains in certain aspects. Like I used chains this earlier this summer because I had a injury in my groin. I'm always injured, and it hurt coming out of the hole, like about 2 to 3 inches out of the hole. And then
Mm-hmm.
after that, I was fine. So I found my pain threshold, and I put chains on, and the chains would hit right above that pain threshold, so I could still kind of build some strength up. So basically linear progression is kind of what I fall with for the most part. And I do a little bit of RPE. I don't really coach with RPE because most clients don't really judge RPE right. Or
Right.
they'll just kind of, oh, this was an 8 and it was definitely a 9. So I'll do it for accessories though, for sure. Just so I don't have to like program weight for somebody who just did like you just pulled deadlifts and now you want to do some front squats or something. I'm not gonna tell you to go in there and kill yourself with front squats. Go in there, get the extra volume in, about RPE 7, 8, and call it good. And that's pretty much how I train myself too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I found that a lot of people have a really hard time gauging RPE, like what their true RPE is. And this kind of goes back to like the differences between coaching women and men. I find that men overestimate their RPE and women underestimate their RPE.
I can see that.
I don't
I
know
can.
if you've had that experience, but women tend to underestimate what they're actually capable of, and men try to overestimate.
I mean, that checks out. Yeah, I know. I mean, I'll do that sometimes. Like if I give myself a range, this is something I do too. I'll give some of my more advanced clients a range for their top sets, and some of them they're modest and they'll take the bottom end of the range, which is fine. And I give myself ranges, and I even give my wife ranges. She always takes the top end every time.
Mm-hmm.
Every time. I'll even go with the lower end. But she's like, oh, I can go this high? I'm going for it. I'm like, all right, man. So but she's kind of, I guess she's like the I don't know. She's not like I guess most girls for the most part. She's trying to just go for it all the time. So
I love that. Do you guys train together a lot?
for the most part, she's in school now, so sometimes she'll train while I'm at work, and then she'll head off to school. And other times when we're both at home, if I get off work, she'll train with me, and we usually train on Saturdays together for like squats and stuff like that.
Nice. Is she competitive as well?
Yeah, yeah. She's doing power surge in 2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice. I will be there for that actually. Um,
sweet.
yeah. You're not doing that one, are you?
I'm signed up for the men's pro day. I
Mm-hmm.
might do it. I'm just waiting to hear back from my MRI results and kind of see how I do it this week.
Yeah.
So
So question mark. Well, you'll be there anyway to support her, right?
yeah, so I'll be there regardless. This is kind of why I signed up.
Yeah. Well, might as well. Um, awesome. So I kind of want to get your thoughts on the new rules that the IPF just laid out for bench. There's been a lot of debate around, honestly, for a long time, whether or not the, quote unquote cheater bench should be allowed amongst all the federations, but the IPF is really the first one to address it. So do you feel that that change was necessary?
Um, on a personal level, no, I never cared about people with a big arch. In my opinion, it was like they have the ability to do it. I don't. I just need to get stronger than them. It's kind of like being mad because somebody has short femurs and they have a
Mm-hmm.
lower they squat easier than you. So personally, didn't really care about it. So when they came out with the rule, I was like, okay. Like I get where they're coming from, what they're trying to do. I don't know how it'll be in application for
Mm-hmm.
different body types. So that's kind of why I never really saw a good purpose in putting a rule in place for that because I never saw a way that would make everybody happy. It's like I don't. If you're gonna just make more people upset, then just leave it how it is because people are already used to being upset. So it's like I, I don't care for it. I don't hate it because obviously I don't lift an IPF, so it's not really affecting me. But I'm interested to see how different body types it'll play out for. But I'm also interested to see kind of how certain bench presses are gonna adjust to it next year. So let's kind of see how it knocks them off.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm kind of on the fence about it too. Like I can see both sides, as far as like the anatomical advantage of being able to like honestly contort your body into that
Yeah.
position. Like I have a pretty hefty arch, but it's nothing like that. Like I have a decent range. I haven't tested it yet, but I'm pretty sure that that rule would not even affect me in the way that I bench. And in reality, it really only impacts a very small like group of lifters because there's not very many people that can get their body into that position. But I'm hard pressed to say that, if someone who currently is not capable of getting their body in that position, but they could, I think they would be utilizing that in order to like utilize that as an advantage to their bench press if they had the capability to actually achieve it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the name of the game is to push as much weight as you can. So if you're just gonna, it's like having a stronger sumo, and because everybody says, "Oh, sumo's cheating," but you're gonna just, "Oh, everybody says it's cheating. I'm gonna pull conventional because it's better, even though it's 100 pounds less than my sumo." I'm not leaving any pounds on the table.
Absolutely not. I mean, it's
So
it's a sport of strength, right? And if you can accomplish that as efficiently as possible, why would you not?
exactly.
Um, I'm curious to see like if any of the other federations are going to follow suit with this new rule and like create a depth requirement for bench, or if it's even going to open up the conversation for sumo because you have, some of these guys that can take their feet all the way out to the end of the plate and don't get much of a range on their sumo pull, but are still getting all-time world records and things just like people were within the IPF with that style of benching. So I'm interested to see if it's going to like spark conversations around that.
Yeah, that'll be a headache. But I can see it.
Yeah, you pull sumo, correct?
Yeah.
You compete, yeah, I do too. And sumo lifters get a lot of crap for pulling sumo, and a lot of people don't understand that it's actually a much more difficult way to pull, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like as far because the bar itself just seems so much heavier initially off the floor. Like I don't think that someone who has consistently been training conventional could pull the same weight conventional as they could sumo, just because the initial pull off the floor is so much more
Yeah.
challenging. And
Definitely
a
not.
lot
They
of
probably wouldn't even think that he could pull it off at all.
probably not,
Yeah.
right? And people say that it's cheating because of the range of motion benefit, or advantage, but the lift itself is so much more difficult. It takes so much more mobility. It takes, especially in the hips and the adductors and everything, such a strain initially off the floor, and the lockouts completely. Like the mechanics of the lift are very different, and
Yeah.
so like I don't see why people would consider that cheating when in reality the lift is so much more challenging.
Yeah, I don't get it either because most people, if they try to pull sumo from conventional, they probably couldn't get within 10% of their max conventional. Most people won't be able to do it. The ones that can, they're just lucky. I guess they're built for both. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, typically people who are really strong conventional are like posterior chain dominant, and then people who are really strong with the sumo are anterior dominant. And typically, like the taller the athlete, they tend to go more towards the conventional, which I think is funny because they get the range of motion advantage with the sumo. So I'm not sure why a lot of them like choose the conventional route, especially when they have the disadvantage of being like so long.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you because my wife pulls conventional too. Her legs are just as long as mine, but she's about 3, 4 inches shorter than me. So
Mm-hmm.
you got legs for days, and it's like that's a long way to pull. And
Mm-hmm.
she knows how to pull sumo, but she will never commit to it. So I don't know.
To each their own.
Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit about how you had posted your recap on the American Pro on your social media. And what I really like about your social media page is you don't just post your highlights and you don't just post the good things and the PRs and all of that, which I think in like today's society, social media has become a place where you only post your highlight reels and don't really post a lot of reality. And I think that's even more so true within the fitness space. people are looking at social media accounts from, bodybuilders and all these other athletes, and, they have their stage shots up there and their peak week shots up there and all of that, which in
Yeah.
reality, like, they don't look like that all the time. Like, there's a very small window in which people look that way, right? And it's
Right.
not something that's sustainable throughout the year. So I really appreciate that you post both the good and, where you have some opportunities and you're just like very real with people. What, in your opinion, like, how do you think social media has impacted the sport of powerlifting, whether it be positive or negative or both?
So a positive for sure is it's brought more eyes as a whole to the sport. When I started the sport, we didn't we had social media, but we weren't on it like that. So if we
It
want to talk
wasn't.
about powerlifting, yeah, it was like you want to talk about powerlifting, you go to bodybuilding.com and hit up the forums and just talk to people's usernames. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in that regard, it's definitely helped out. You got people, you can see the lifters who you were competing against. You can get help from people a little bit easier. You can see how other people train, and you can just be exposed to the sport a little bit more. And the negative side, the issue for me is like a lot of it is like a lot of ego, clout lifting, and stuff like that. And it's just kind of I don't know. I never really got into it, like to just do like all the little weird stunts and all the other stuff. But it kind of pushes it out there for social media. People like to share it and everything like that. And I think it's fine. It's just annoying, I guess, for the most part. Another good thing is it also, I think it's helped put money in some of the athletes' pocket too. They
Mm-hmm.
help push the sponsors' products and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
think that's helped a little bit. Um, yeah,
I
I
think
don't have a whole lot negatives to say. I think social media is okay as long as people just trying to just chill with it sometimes. The one thing I do hate is the online the bullying and the joking with
mm-hmm.
people. It kind of gets old really fast. Like people will kind of take an athlete's issue and run with it for months and or whatever and just kind of keep it going. And they think it's a joke, but it's not because
Right.
that person's probably sick and tired of it. And to me, that's a toxic version of it because people kind of don't realize they think they're not doing any harm, but they are.
Mm-hmm.
But they're doing it at the expense of others, and I think that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah. People are very bold behind the anonymity of their computer or their phone.
Yeah.
And hard pressed to think that, if you were standing right in front of that person, that you would say those same things directly to their face.
Oh yeah. No.
And putting yourself out there on social media, right? You kind of have to take the good with the bad, especially for someone like me who creates a lot of educational content around lifting and powerlifting specifically. You always have people that are going to make comments saying how you're a bad coach because that's not the way to lift. Or I made this post about one of my athletes. The post itself was actually about the bench press commands,
Mm.
and she lifts with an arch, and it's not a like crazy arch, but an arch nonetheless, and she really draws her feet back. And there's so many people who don't understand how powerlifters lift and how it's not like just how your regular gym goer would lift, right? And this video like completely blew up, got a ton of views, a ton of comments, but like almost every single comment was completely negative and like missing the point of the entire post. And me trying to be the educational person, like I'm not going to sit here and fight with somebody I don't know online. Like that just seems silly to me. But
Yeah.
responding to the post about why she is in that position, why that technique is actually solid, how powerlifters actually do this. And it's just funny, like people's responses to my educational explanations with like actual references for people to look at, like, was still completely negative. I'm like, I don't understand why people who don't understand a sport have so many negative things to say about something they just don't get.
Yeah, and I feel like the most times you see that is with on women's accounts, and it's like this. I don't know. I guess this need to mansplain or whatever it is and invalidate what the
Mm-hmm.
girl's doing because I don't know. Maybe they're threatened or something. But also these guys are. It's usually the guys. So I keep saying guys. These guys are like they're usually like gym bros, you know, they're not really professional, they're not really bodybuilders, they're not powerlifters. So they really don't have any actual information to go on except what their friends do in the gym and what they've seen probably an NFL player do in or something or their own like YouTube, which is obviously probably not great for them either. So it kind of blows my mind when they're like, "Oh, you shouldn't do like the whole arch thing. You're gonna
Mhm.
break your back." Blah blah blah. Not knowing that the natural curvature of the spine is really what's being followed here. So it's kind of
Exactly.
you just proving you have no idea about body biomechanics at all or anything, huh? So it's just in the end, it's like the people who know, and they're just looking stupid. But it is incredibly frustrating and annoying. I definitely understand where you're coming from, especially when you're trying to help people who want to learn and get better, and then you have people who have nothing to do with even the sport just come in and this is wrong, you know, you don't know what he's talking about, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
They have no credentials, so it's like, okay, cool, thanks, man.
It's like,
So
thanks for showing up.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I do what you said is very accurate, and I experience this all the time. Being a female strength coach who primarily coaches male athletes, like it's very, I get a lot of shit for that, honestly. And I don't know if it's like it's an intimidation thing. But obviously my trained males can outlift me as far as poundage goes, because of course they can. But it's so interesting, like when I go to the meets with my clients and things like that, like one, there's not very many female coaches there, period. And then I'm always the only female coach with a male athlete every single time. And I find it so interesting, like how incredibly shocking that is for people.
yeah,
And my clients win their weight classes and they do very well. And it's always so surprising to people. Like the concept of building strength is exactly the same regardless of how much weight you actually lift. And people
yeah,
don't understand that.
yeah. It's like, oh, because you're a girl and you're a little bit, you're not as strong as the person you're coaching. Your knowledge is invalidated,
Exactly.
which
Like
which
that
is
makes no sense.
idiotic.
Yeah.
So
I mean, don't get me wrong, I can outlift the majority of men in the gym. However, when it comes to trained powerlifters, like of course, like a trained male powerlifter is going to lift more than I can. Of course they will. But that does not mean that my knowledge to get them from a, 700-pound squat to a 730-pound squat changes just because it's in the 700s instead of the force.
yeah,
Like the process is exactly the same. So
exactly.
I find it interesting. Does your wife coach at all, or does she experience like any negativity on social media?
So she doesn't coach. She's in the school for exercise science, though she does want to take up coaching and also hit up kind of more of a gen pop version of coaching too.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of where she wants to go in the future.
So she'll experience that later on.
Yeah, yeah, she would. But every now and then, there's been a couple people comment on her page for whatever reason, and she doesn't have a crazy arch. She pulls conventional, and she squats low bar, so she kind of has the general most. Everybody agrees with this type of lifting
Hmm.
style, so she doesn't get too much for it. But every now and then somebody will comment something random or like comment to her parents or say something stupid. And I've gotten my account flagged a few times for talking back to him, so it's whatever.
Yeah,
But
just trying to
um,
do that for her.
yeah, it doesn't happen too often. Definitely nobody in the actual strength community because I go to a lot of meets and stuff and people see me a lot, so I would be hard pressed to see somebody say something to my wife online and I see him in person.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's not too bad. She's not heavily on social media. I don't think she's posted a lift in a month. Um,
good for
but
her. Honestly, if
yeah,
I wasn't running a business that was so heavily driven by social media, I wouldn't be on there either.
yeah, it's kind of it's my second income for the most part is Instagram and
Hmm.
coaching stuff. But yeah, for her, she'll get on and like scroll a little bit, reply to messages, and might post in her story every now and then. But ask her to post her training is not happening.
Well, good for
I even have to ask her for it. I'm like, hey, did you do this? She's like, oh yeah, here you go. I'm like, you weren't gonna show me, huh? Cool. But yeah, she's not too bad with social media as far as like the comment stuff. And I know some of my other female friends get kind of the crazier comments and stuff, but like Hunter Henderson, like you mentioned
her.
her, Brianna gets some wild comments every now and then too. So it's kind of the norm, especially when they got those bigger accounts. Like their stuff gets shared a lot more to people.
100%.
So Luckily, Bria only has about 4,500 followers, so her stuff doesn't go too crazy yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the risk that you run, especially when are an elite level athlete and you put yourself out there and you have a big following. Like the negativity is just going to come with it. And you kind of have to have thick skin when you're kind of in we'll call it the public eye. Definitely have to have thick skin and take things with a grain of salt and know that their comments have more to do with them than they do with you.
Yeah, I definitely have experienced that a couple times.
Yeah.
So
now I see that you in your stories you do a lot of those anonymous questions.
yeah.
So I've always been curious to do that, but I'm also like slightly terrified to do it at the same time.
That's fair.
Like, who knows what you're gonna get, right? What is like the weirdest question, if you can share it? Like, what is the weirdest question you've gotten through an anonymous question?
I could probably pull one up. I get some weird ones, but I've also gotten some so I don't know how long you've been following me. I used to do confessions before these things took off, and people like I would know who was confessing to me. So that was a little bit different, but it was more personal, I guess. I got to meet a lot of people and kind of discuss the things they were going through, which I kind of like. That's a personality trait of mine. So the anonymous one has just been insane because people just say whatever comes to mind.
Absolutely.
But for me, usually I get like people ask for like relationship advice, sex advice, or just random. Sometimes I get lifting stuff. People never ask me for lifting stuff, which is hilarious. Somebody just said they saw me in Vegas, and it must have been a weird moment that they caught me, and then they said my secret is safe with them. I have no idea who this is and what they saw because it wasn't me. I thought that was funny because
they didn't say what the situation was.
No, the last time I was in Vegas, we went to nationals and watched for a couple hours, and then I went to Bree and Joe's house where we spent the night there, and then we went to Dragon's Lair to train, and we didn't really go anywhere. We didn't go out or do anything. So I'm like, I don't know who you are, but you might have saw me at the meet. I don't know what's weird about that, but cool, man. Keep that secret.
Absolutely.
So some stuff's just creepy, but
yeah, that just kind of comes with it, I guess. Again, like the people being so comfortable behind the anonymity of their keyboard or their phone.
Yeah, I've gotten some rude ones, especially when I first started. So it's cool.
Yeah, of course.
But I just ignore it.
Yeah. I'm assuming you don't like publicly share all of them. You're selective.
No, I got. Yeah, if you can see all the green ones I answered, and the other ones I'm just skipping.
Oh my gosh, you got a ton of them.
Yeah, some of them just like that's dumb. I don't care. Like they ask about like how much money I make. I'm not sharing that. Or they'll say something like overtly too sexual about other people. I'm like, I'm not posting that either because that's somebody's personal stuff. Or it's just creepy.
Yeah. So. I always laugh at John Hack's account because I feel like he posts every single like anonymous message that he gets. We get some of this stuff. I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah, he gets some funny ones too. So yeah, I was watching his earlier today.
It's very entertaining. Like every time I see the stories pop up and like I click the first one and then there's, all these tiny little short little dashes because there's 500 stories to follow and all of them are these anonymous messages that he gets. And I'm like, that's just so funny.
Yeah.
But maybe one day I'll get brave enough and do one myself.
Hey, you never know. It might be funny. It's good for boredom. I mean, if I get bored, I'm like, I'm programming all day. Send me some stuff.
There you go.
It gives you some entertainment.
There you go. Well, if you see one pop up on my stories, throw me a good question.
Yes. Gotcha.
Awesome. Well, just one last thing I want to touch on before we sign off here. So for all of the newer lifters or people who are like really training hard to like get to the level that you're at or get to the next level in their powerlifting career, like what is some really good advice that you would share with those people?
Take your time. You don't have to get there tomorrow. Yes. Take your time. It took me 11 years to get here. This wasn't my best year, but it took me 10 years to get to my best totals that I hit so far. And I've been injured all year and I'm still pretty much right behind where I was before. So I've even gotten stronger being injured, but you just got to take your time, train consistently, and you will get where you want to go eventually. And just train smart. Don't hurt yourself. Because I know a lot of people see these newer lifters who are like, they're young, they're like 21, 22, and they're super strong. like Shane Hunt. Shane Hunt's
Mhm.
young. He's super fucking strong.
Yep.
Deadlifted like 900 something pounds the other day. Then there's some kid who was at the American Pro who deadlifted like 800. He's skinny as shit too. I'm just like, oh wow. Um,
He was like 19 or 20 or something like that.
yeah,
Well,
he's a young, really young kid.
yeah, I
I'm
can't
like,
remember his
okay.
name, but I need to look him up
So
now.
yeah, so I think seeing kids like that come out of nowhere, it kind of makes people like, oh man, I'm not gonna get there. I'm not gonna get there. I mean, you will, because a lot of times those guys fizzle out. They lose interest in the
Yeah.
sport, or they just kind of hit a wall, or they're only good at one lift. Not saying that about any of the guys I just mentioned, but I've been like we've been in the sport 10, 11 years. I've seen a lot of people who were at the top that are now not doing anything, or a lot of people who were on their way to the top had a lot of potential and they're not doing anything either. So it's like if you stick with it, eventually your time will come too.
Absolutely.
So don't be in a rush.
No. Patience is key. Very difficult
Yes,
to accept, but definitely a key to success for
this is a
sure.
marathon, not a sprint. You can't build strength in 2 days. It's gonna take a while.
Yeah, see, that's why you don't do speed work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So skip the speed work and just do the slow, hard stuff.
Exactly. You got
Awesome.
it.
Awesome. Well, Chad, I really appreciate you being on with me today. And I look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks in Chicago.
Yes, me too.
All right, we'll talk soon.
All right.